Thanks for joining me today. My name is Elise, and I'm here to share with you a workshop called Zines About Ourselves and Our Stories. I'm really excited to share with you a little bit about what zines are, how to make them, and kind of get you maybe digging a little bit deeper into how to create your own zine. The key things to remember about zines is that they're self-published. They are made by usually a single person or a collective, and they don't have like a big publisher behind them. So a lot of times the content could be more free, and it could be about just anything that maybe wouldn't be so mainstream all the time. Another thing to remember about zines, you might wonder where the name comes from. Some people kind of think of it as like short for magazine, so it's kind of more of like a DIY or do-it-yourself version. And the other key thing is accessibility. So when you're printing zines, for example, like this, we'll get more into the formatting, but this is literally, you can open it up to be one sheet of paper. So the cost for something like this is really cheap, and you could go to Kinko's or go to your local print shop and print a bunch and distribute it. So it's an easy way to get information out there. But also when you make zines, you could just make them for yourself too, or for your friends. It really just allows for a lot of creative freedom. A great way to share about what zines are and give a quick intro is to actually read a zine. So today we're going to read this zine by a local collective called Zine Collection. Throughout history, zines have played a huge role in social change. Much like today, they have been used to educate folks and spread awareness. While they weren't called zines until more recently, DIY and self-published literature can be found in several social movements throughout history. Prior to slavery being abolished, free black folks and others who opposed slavery published abolitionist newsletters. One well-known publication is The North Star by Frederick Douglass. Distributing pamphlets was also a huge tool amongst the suffragettes fighting for the right to vote. Zines and DIY have helped people live and speak freely before it even had a name for it. Speak your truth, get free, make zines, your voice matters. All right, so we're gonna get started and talk a little bit about what kind of zines there are out there. So there's different types that people focus on and different ways that they share their story. I wanted to share this zine by Christina Tran, who's an artist currently based in Oregon, but lived in California for a while. Her zine is called Dear Daughter, and I wanted to show it because it's a really personal zine. She basically took photos of her mom and dad when they were younger and other people in her family, and she created these different phrases in the book to sort of talk to her daughter if she were to have a daughter in her life. And so it's kind of like this conversation with a daughter she doesn't have, but also maybe the things her parents would tell her if they were still alive. So I just think it's a really powerful zine, and this is one way that you can make a zine very personal. You can include your own family photos and maybe dig deeper into your history. So they don't have to be super long. You can only do pictures if you want to. This is also a good example of a photography zine because it has obviously a lot of photos, but the focus is more the photos and then some of the text. So I just wanted to read one of them so you can get an idea of sort of the story she's wanting to tell with this zine called Dear Daughter. So this one says, Dear daughter, don't let them fool you into believing that you are powerless. They are afraid of your true power. So that's just one example of many. Awesome. So this is actually one of my favorites in the zine. It says, Dear daughter, sometimes I get scared when I get the chance to do something that I know will help me grow. But I've learned to follow that fear. I hope you always follow your fear. So these phrases are really powerful, and they kind of just showcase different ways that she saw her family and maybe the way she would want to talk to her future family. All right, so I'm gonna share this zine by Lawrence Lindell. This one in particular is called Both, and then Some Tales of the In-Between, Chapter 2. So another thing to recognize about zines is they can come in volumes, so you could do multiple of maybe a story that's continuous, or you can do just like different chapters of an experience or a subject. I wanted to highlight his work in particular because he does a lot of comic zines, and he does them in like a per zine format. So comics, usually you'll see little boxes like this that tell the story. And then a per zine is kind of short for personal, so it's like a personal zine. So those are personal stories that are more intimate to your identity, or maybe something you've experienced that you want to share with other people. All right, so I wanted to share what's called a how-to zine, which basically is what it sounds like. It shows you how to make something or do something, or shares more information about it. This one's pretty cool because it's how to sew by hand. And as you look through the zine, you'll see there's different images and photos that kind of give you a step-by-step introduction to different types of hand sewing. So it's pretty fun and interesting, and you can learn a lot. There's different types of how-tos, so I've seen them for using plants to kind of heal. There's some for how to draw, just any kind of process or thing that you can think of. And this one's pretty cool because we actually have a sewing program here at the Anaheim Public Library, and this zine was made for that program so people could get more information about what they're doing. So as you can see, zines can be about whatever you're passionate about. And I thought that zine in particular was a great example because it highlights how zines have impacted social justice and how they could be a tool to speak your voice and to kind of share your story. Hopefully by the end of this workshop, you'll have a better idea of what you want to say in creating your own zine. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about formats. So I just want to show you some different super easy DIY versions of zines that you can make at home. We're going to start by making a mini zine, and I pre-cut this, but I'm going to walk you through the steps. So basically this is what it's going to look like. These are the page numbers that you'll see when you're creating the zine. Okay, so let's walk through it together. So you're gonna start by folding your paper, what I call hot dog style, which means just long ways in half like this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I brought with me a tool called like a bone folder. So basically you can use that. If you really want the edges to be perfect, you can just slide it along. If you don't have one of these, you can also just use a ruler or just like a hard piece of cardboard or metal, whatever you have around. You're gonna open that, and then you're gonna fold it hamburger style, just like this. And then once you're done with that step, you're gonna take it and fold it over again that way, just like this. Now you're gonna open it, and you'll have two sides. One side's gonna be the closed side, the other one's gonna be the open flaps like this. Just make sure to cut on the closed side, or else you'll have to start over again. So you're gonna cut from the closed edge right here up onto the middle crease of the page. So once you get to that step, it's gonna look kind of like a Pac-Man or something like that. The next step is where it gets a little bit tricky, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna open the zine. So just grab the two sides here. You're gonna fold it over hot dog style, and you'll kind of see like a diamond like this when you push the two sides together. So just grab those two sides and push all the way like that. And then you're gonna fold over the pages and fold them down like this. Kind of press them down like that. And there you have it. That's like the basic mini zine format that you can do with one sheet of paper. And these are the ones I showed you where you can open it up and also like have an image inside. So these are the basic and most easiest form that you can use when you're getting started with zines. All right, so we're gonna continue with formats. I'm only showing two today, but there's so many different ways that you can create a zine that it's kind of endless. These are just basic. When you're getting started, they're the easiest ways to do it. So when you're creating a zine like this, where we're gonna bind it, we're gonna sew it, You want to make sure that before you sew or bind it like this, that you have all your pages counted. Each piece of paper, when you fold it in half, it basically counts as 4 different sides and 4 different pages in your zine. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing how many pages you want to include. So the first step to creating a zine like this is you're gonna fold the pages in half, like I just did. So in half hamburger style, like that. There's different ways that you can bind it together. I brought one to show really quickly. If you don't have a sewing needle and you don't have scissors or you don't have a stapler, you can use a rubber band. So you can literally just put a rubber band around the binding like this, and it holds it together, which is super easy. So that's one way. Another way is you can use a long arm stapler like this, and you basically just put the spine of the book into it and you press it down to staple. So that's one way. I'm going to show you how to do a simple stitch that is super easy to bind your zines together. So you can grab a sewing needle like this and any piece of string that you have. I'm using embroidery thread in particular, which you can find at like any craft store. You're gonna just go and put your needle through the middle of the binding, or I'm sorry, of the spine of the book. So just go ahead and push that through like that. And if you have a sharp embroidery needle, it's way easier to just push it through. So once you're gonna pull it through, but leave a little piece of string like that, and you can kind of hold that with your other finger. Then you can kind of flip around your paper and put the needle through one side. It doesn't matter which side, one side of the paper. I usually like to do just like a simple stitch that is kind of measured, maybe dividing the paper in 3 ways and kind of pushing it through at that point. So it doesn't really have to be that like measured out, but you can measure it if you want to. So go ahead and push that through. So now we're back at the beginning. You're gonna take the needle and go through the middle hole one more time. So just through that middle hole. Like so, pull it all the way through. And at this point you still have that little piece kind of hanging out on the front, so just keep holding that. Flip it back around and choose the other point where you want to put the string through. So go ahead and push it through that way. Pull the string all the way through. Awesome. Flip it back around. And then what I usually do here is I'll push the needle through the side of the string just to hold it in. And then I just make a little knot. So just like that. And then I'll just trim the string. You can add a bow if you want, make it kind of cute. Yeah, so that's like the basic of it. I just usually press down the side just to kind of make it flat. And then you have your zine. And it's held together really nicely like that. We kind of learned about what a zine is, what kinds there are, and how to make them. Now I'm gonna give you a little bit of inspiration to hopefully get you started on making your own type of zine. So before you get started, there's a few questions that you can ask yourself. You can say, how long do I want it to be? And that can help inspire what format you want to use, whether it is the mini zine or it is a larger zine. That's a good question to ask. You can ask, can you say it all in one zine? So do you want to do multiple volumes like we talked about earlier? And also you could think about cost. If it's something that you just want to make really cheaply, do you want it to be black and white or color? Those are all good questions to ask. When it comes to content, a good question to ask is, who are you writing this for? Is it for yourself, for someone else to learn, for a certain community? Who do you want to read it? Maybe thinking about if someone were to ask me what the zine is about, I could say it in like a sentence or two, and that's kind of what my goal is for the zine. So you can just write down maybe 1 to 2 sentences of what you're thinking you want to write about. But before that, I'm gonna just do like a quick little exercise to help you kind of brainstorm and get inspired for making a zine. So the first step to kind of doing this little exercise is just choosing a person, a place, a community, maybe a social justice topic or issue that you have a connection with, maybe you want to learn more about, or maybe you just want to share with other people. So you can choose that, and we'll draw a circle in the middle of the paper like this. Inside the circle, go ahead and write down whatever that thing is to you. I'm going to write about grief in mine. So grief is something I know has been a part of my life after I experienced the death of my mom. So I would want to share a zine maybe about her life and what grief is like. So from there, I'm gonna draw some lines and just think about all the words or ideas that come to mind when you're thinking about that specific topic. So for me, it's like maybe depression, maybe memorial, or remembering her life. I'll write memory for that one. You can think about things that a person taught you. So I'm gonna put things that my mom taught me. And you can write maybe what I've learned from the experience. So these are just certain ideas that I think of when I'm thinking of this particular topic, and they're all ways that I could approach the zine. So I can choose one of them. For example, maybe I wanted to do one about depression and different tools that can help people when they've experienced loss and they have depression. Or maybe I can write a particular story that I had with my mom or when she was sick. So there's different ways that you can approach it. One way that I would recommend doing it is maybe writing out 6 different topics and then creating a mini zine and writing each topic, 1 page about each topic. So like, for example, this one will be about the memory. What do I want to share about that? Let me add some like bullet points, and doing the same throughout your zine. So that's like a quick way to kind of get you thinking about what you want to talk about, what you want to share. Even if you think something doesn't make sense or isn't important, there's someone out there that can relate to that experience. And that's the special part about this type of art making, is that people can relate on a very personal level. All right, so in front of me, or in front of you now, you see a bunch of different zines. These are all from the Anaheim Public Library's Zine Collection. So we actually have a circulating collection that you can check out and take home with you. So if you're ever interested, right now we're doing curbside, so you can call and get some recommendations and you can check them out to your card. I just wanted to show you how different all of these look. They're all about different subjects and topics, and it's great to see the different styles and formats from different artists. There's other ones that are a little more intricate, something like this, which is printed, which looks like it's probably Riso printed or kind of a special format. And this one has a lot of different photos in it. So just to give you an idea of what exists out there, there's some about genderqueer, so different identities. This one is about crystals and different gems and how you can use them in your everyday life. I wanted to highlight this one that is just a larger format. So you can kind of see this one's made by an 11 by 17 paper, and whoever made it decided to cut out these different pieces to include inside. So there's so many different ways that you can put a zine together, and you just have to stay true to what you're passionate about and what your style is. And you don't necessarily have to draw or write. You can just kind of go for it and use it as a way to express yourself. The last thing I wanted to mention is with zines, there's also something called Zine Fest. And here at the Anaheim Public Library, we actually host a Zine Fest annually called the OC Zine Fest. And so you can grab more information about that online at their Instagram. I wanted to highlight that Zine Fest because a really important part of Zine Fest is the community that's within them. And I also wanted to showcase the artists that I featured in this workshop today. So if you're interested in checking out any of their work and looking more at zines, these are some of the links to the artists I featured their zines. And at the bottom, there's a link to the LA Zine Fest, which is another large Zine Fest that happens, as well as our handle at the OC Zine Fest. So go check them out. All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you learned some awesome things about zines, and I hope that you're inspired to create your own works of art at home. This program is one workshop of the many that are a part of the Anaheim Public Library's summer reading program. So go ahead and check it out by visiting anaheim.net/summerreading. You can also join our online program to track your reading and win prizes throughout the summer.